Created by the men and women behind the iconic stealth action Hitman series at IO Interactive, Freedom Fighters is widely considered to be a hidden gem, certainly enough to deserve that sequel they've been trying to make since 2005, many people argue. I agree with those sentiments, but not because it's a fantastic game. More because I want to see IO improve upon something with great ideas and a fantastic soundtrack that's unfortunately undermined by a lackluster story, questionable design choices that drive holes through its central concept, and a perpetual feeling of waiting for a grand epic that never comes. I'm FrDougal9000, and welcome to my review for Freedom Fighters on the PlayStation 2. In an alternate reality in which the Soviet Union did not disband and has become such a supreme power that they dominate the rest of the world, they finally decide to up and invade the United States herself, with New York being one of the major targets. In the chaos, only a few are able to escape the communist forces and, led by practical plumber Chris Stone and activist Isabella Angelina, they form a resistance to fight the Reds and take their home back in the name of freedom! The plot to Freedom Fighters, though I love the idea it's going for and the voice acting and animation are solid, just didn't grab me. We don't really see much of the fighters' lives apart from successfully pulling off operations all the time. Most of the characters aren't really compelling thanks to cliché writing or annoying personalities, and in general, it made the conflict feel very underwhelming and small scale, even when it wasn't supposed to be. However, because it's given a very small emphasis in the game, it's the gameplay that plays a big role in how things turn out. As with most third-person shooters released pre-Gears of War, Freedom Fighters is very much a run-and-gun sort of affair without any of the cover shooting guff, making it a much more straightforward, fast-paced romp compared to modern standards. That's not to say it's simple to the point of being stupid, because the game gives you a few extra things to keep you on your toes. First off is weapon restrictions. You are not a walking armory, but a mere man fighting against an oppressive dictatorship. You can only carry two weapons, a pistol and a sub-weapon, at any time, and ammo can get quite scarce, even on the easier difficulties, so you'll need to switch and improvise a lot in order to survive. Secondly is the non-linear progression available. Often you have the choice of tackling levels in any order you so want to complete bonus side objectives like destroying soldier training centers or rescuing prisoners that make later levels easier and give you morale points, the latter of which is used to get more of the game's third and arguably most important titular mechanic, more Freedom Fighters. Encounter any other members of the Resistance hiding in the city streets, and if you've got enough morale, you can order them around to take on enemies for you, defend areas, and more to help you get to the flagpole at the end of the level, where you replace the Soviet's flag with the Stars and Stripes herself in the name of freedom! On paper, it paves the way for what could be a really good game, but the execution is overall left lacking due to the fact that when you get down to it, these mechanics come off as either annoying or useless. Going back to that two weapons only matter, it doesn't really make much sense given how big your inventory is and how much of it is packed with near useless items like Molotov cocktails and your wrench. I know that occasionally they are useful, like the wrench can help you get back and forth between different parts of the level, but we'll get to that. And otherwise they don't do anything. I honestly tried to get rid of some of these a few times, but found it couldn't be done. I know it forces you to be more tactical about how you use your weapons, but it seems more like a solution to a problem that shouldn't have existed to begin with. In addition, the whole idea of completing as many side objectives as possible and doing levels in any order is offset by the fact that, in the grand scheme of things, they're pointless. The game is programmed to end the level when you hoist up your flag, no matter what's happening or where you are. Since there are barely any objectives demanding you go back and forth between levels in order to progress, and the number of recruits you have don't really impact on how things turn out, not to mention there really is no difference whether you do these things or not, there's no alternate endings or anything. This results in not much changing other than what order you play the levels in, which isn't really much. For a game dedicated to strategy and tactics, there's not much reason to really do any of it. Heck, not even the basic gameplay is all that great. The gunplay has no weight to it. It's not satisfying to take down enemies who you often need to unleash ridiculous amounts of ammo onto before they die, and it all just feels mindless and dull. The difficulty settings available are either too easy that you end up bored, or too insane early on that you just end up running away. There are a few times where it is somewhat cathartic to invade a base and take down as many enemies as possible, but those are too few and far apart to elevate the game to anything more than decent at best. Now, I can tolerate flawed gameplay mechanics, even those that defeat the selling point of the game, if the experience and atmosphere can make up for it, but they don't here. The world barely feels like it was once inhabited, the characters and plot are underdeveloped, and I was constantly expecting more to happen. I was expecting to escape from a prison I had been tossed into, to take back more cities and to fight epic battles, but none of that happened. When the credits rolled after about 3 or 4 hours, I was seriously underwhelmed, and that's the biggest problem with Freedom Fighters personally. It tries so hard to be this amazing romp that redefines third-person shooters the way Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy did 3D platforming, or Spider-Man 2 for licensed games, but it isn't memorable. I can't remember any of the levels or what you do in them. There were never any shocking or spectacular moments that made me poop myself in either fear or delight, and despite the love that's gone into the design, story, and aesthetics, there isn't anything noteworthy to take away. That is, except for a single thing, and that is its amazing soundtrack. Composed by Jesper Kyd, whose works include the Hitman series and several Assassin's Creed games, the music to Freedom Fighters has a majestically cheesy 1980s feel to it, with its mix of communist choirs and synth leads that make for a very fitting, catchy, and incredibly well-composed score that make everything in the game come off as far more atmospheric and beautiful than it would otherwise be. Wandering through the war-torn abandoned streets of New York and fighting against an oppressive dictatorship has never sounded more awesome, and Kyd should be hailed along the likes of Nobuo Uematsu and Jake Coppin forever because of that. Like I said before, I genuinely want a sequel to Freedom Fighters, or at least a remake of some sort. Not because it's a classic, but because I want its ideas to be properly developed in a grand, epic, multifaceted game with tons of atmosphere and satisfying gameplay. It's a game I desperately want to like because what's good about it is really good, and I can totally see why so many people want IO to finally get a sequel out. But there's so much flaw with it that all that's left at the end of the day is an underwhelmingly average product only elevated to decent for its beautiful music. Considering it's available online for about $10 or less, there isn't much to lose from buying it, to be fair, but unless you're into third-person shooters that aren't constantly cover-based or games that give you a mix of dumb fun shooting and a small bit of strategy, I can't recommend Freedom Fighters beyond the aforementioned soundtrack. In the end, I can only give this game a rating of decent. It's not that great, and though it may be surprisingly enjoyable for some, it comes recommended only for fans of the game's franchise or genre. And for the record, I think Mini Ninjas is IO's best game, but that's for another time. I'm FrDougal9000, and I hope you enjoyed watching my first video in over 1,000 years. Until I manage to shake off the people about to kill me for not liking this game, I'll see you all for my next video, probably sometime in a million years. Have a great day!